Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get to it. Welcome, everyone. This is a new segment. We are doing a Confiding Codependummy check-in with an amazing, beloved listener, Miss Molly. You can say hi, Molly.
Hello.
So for those of you who have been listening, at the end of most episodes or beginning, I talk about the Confiding Codependummy, 30 days to a less codependent and more conscious you through journaling prompts. And yeah, so we're going to check in. Molly has completed the 30 days of journaling. We want to hear her testimony, and in hopes that you too, for those who are like thinking about it, wondering about it, maybe you started it and you haven't finished. This is all to serve you, to give you a glimpse into that resource, that tool to help along your healing from codependency journey. Yeah. All right, Molly. So can you tell us, for those who haven't heard the Codependummy Dilemma episode you were on about a year ago, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found the show? We'll start with that.
Sure. So my name is Molly. I am an English language assistant teaching English in Valencia, Spain right now.
Valencia.
Valencia. I'm talking to you right now from Valencia. Got a global audience here on this podcast. But I just turned 26 this month.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. I'm really feeling that prefrontal cortex coming in. It's good stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, I found the podcast because my therapist recommended it to me. Before she recommended this podcast to me, I really didn't know much at all about codependency. So I basically just started eating up the episodes. I started listening to the first few introduction episodes, and I listened to every single one up until at that point. There weren't that many because the podcast was just starting out. And I was just like, this is what I need. Like, I resonated so much. I was like, I made it my Monday ritual to listen to the new episode, and it just started helping me immediately. Like, it gave me that awareness that it's like, it was just an immediate aha. And just once I even started becoming aware of the stuff you talked about in your podcast that I felt like related to me, it helped immediately. So I was a tried and true fan since then.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your fanship. Everyone doesn't know, but I invite everyone to send me emails or to correspond. And there really are just a handful of listeners who do reach out, and Molly is one of them. So yeah, I really appreciate your support.
Anyone who wants to reach out to Marissa and is thinking, oh, I don't know, is that weird? You should do it.
Yeah.
She's awesome. And she always has nice feedback. Well, because like it's like a codependent thing. Like when I
is.
was going to reach out to you because you mentioned it in your episode. And as I was doing it the first time, I was like, is this weird? Am I like burdening her by making her read my email?
Right. And it's like, you little codependummy, like she asked,
yeah.
right? We're like, wait, but even though someone's asking, do they want it? Or are they just being nice? Like, I'm nice. And yeah, we question and doubt and stay small, right? Just like keep it quiet, lacking support, not reaching out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you've been listening and your therapist recommended it. We've been corresponding. I believe it was in November, because I had a discount to offer thanks to everyone. What do you sense sparked you hearing about it and purchasing the Confiding Codependummy? And what were your initial expectations?
Yeah, there were a couple of things. First, I wanted to support the podcast because I like it and it's helped me a lot. So that was part of it. And then there was the thought, like, Marissa has not steered me wrong yet. Everything I've done that has been recommended on this podcast has pretty much helped me. So, maybe I should give it a go. But I'll be honest, I wasn't buying it like this is something I need now and I need to commit to. I was kind of just like, let me just go ahead and buy it, And the money, even though I think about it now and I'm like, that it's such a steal. Like, what is it, $30 now? $20 at the time that I got it.
$1 a prompt.
Like, for the amount of help, I don't know, the like payback that you get from it. I mean, it's really a good deal, but it's so hard, I think, just to invest in ourselves sometimes, even like a tiny, like, $20, $30, for something that could help so much. There's a lot of resistance, like, do I really need that? So I guess I would just say $30 to build all this awareness and potentially really like change your day to day is worth it. So I bought it. I started receiving the daily emails, and like I said, I wasn't really paying much attention to it at first. I just kind of had it like, okay, I'm going to start this at some point. And I think I started getting like really to the end of the 30 days of the emails. And I was like, okay, I need to start this now.
Right.
And I don't know what my initial expectations were. I kind of just had like a blank slate. Like, let's see where this takes me.
Yeah. So I'll support the show how I can. And Marissa hasn't led me astray yet. You're sensing this will just continue to lead you on the correct path. And also, right, you purchased it out of a show of support, some curiosity, but not a desperate, like, help me, Marissa, help me.
Yeah. So, I will say I had been like neglecting my codependency for a while. Like, since I came on the last show, I had like a big zest for working on my codependency, and then it kind of faded away. So I was starting to feel like, okay, it's time for me to start like working on that again. Like, I need to start taking codependency seriously again. So that was also part of it.
Yeah. I'm so curious. What do you sense contributed to the loss of zest?
Probably avoidance, like discomfort, and the work that it takes to like consistently, build the awareness and like take action to, make things better. And yeah, just getting kind of stressed and overwhelmed by other things in my life and just putting it on the back burner, like we tend to do when we start feeling like we're doing better. Like, okay, I'm better now. I don't need to work on it anymore.
Right.
And then I started feeling the same like cycle, same like pendulum, like effect of, I'm feeling good. I kind of like, I'm not working on it. And I start to feel myself like falling and being, crushed by codependency things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm nodding my head in resonance. Yes. Like it is avoidance. You said discomfort and feeling good. And I can't help but think about when we're getting in shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we get in, maybe I'm a runner. So yeah, so I'll run and I'll sign up for some race. I run the race. And then, yeah, it would be easy to think like, oh, okay, I can relax now. And it's like, no, like the people who stay in shape, they work out every day. You're like, oh man,
Yeah.
every day? I have to do it every day. It's like, well, most days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't listening to the podcast for a while. I was really neglecting the codependency stuff. And thankfully, because I had listened to the podcast before and I had worked on this a little bit before, I'd come on to talk to you on the podcast. When I started to feel that like lowering of my entire being, I was able to associate it with codependency. Because a lot of the times, like when I'm in a codependent flurry, I don't like realize it, you know?
Right.
So I was glad that like having listened to the podcast before and having kind of just discovered all of this and talked about it, I was able to associate it with codependency, like with the bad feelings I was having. And I thought, okay, gotta go back to that and work on that some more. This is
Right.
not over yet.
Right. So that consciousness I'm hoping to foster in you and the listeners, right? It's like that in and of itself, like was achieved in a couple months of listening, where you did stop listening, you did start neglecting your routines, you did start neglecting self-care. And yet there was this still small voice, and you were like, Molly, this is codependency. And you're like, oh, okay. Right? You weren't like, you didn't continue to fall down a rabbit hole of unconscious codependence. You were able to catch yourself and implement what you knew would help.
Yeah, which is definitely progress from like when I first started listening, where I was in that desperation. I was clinging to every word. Like I was clinging to the podcast. That was like my lifeline of within codependency for a while. So
yeah,
progress,
Molly, progress. Okay, so you want to support the show. I haven't led you astray yet. You purchase it, and then it is a daily email. So around like the 20s, maybe closer to day 30, you're like, okay, let me start. And yeah, it is designed to be a prompted day. But, I lay out at the beginning, you need to give yourself time. You need to work out what your self-care looks like before and after writing. You need to reward yourself, since I knew some of those questions. Like it was painful. It was painful to write them. It was painful to recall what inspired me to write them and my experiences. And so what barriers or obstacles came up? We'll start with that. What barriers and obstacles came up in your writing?
Well, where to begin? I like not unique to this at all. Like whenever I start any kind of self-help anything, I there are always a lot of barriers. And I've actually, before doing this, had started a few kind of self-help journaling, like type of like books or whatever, never finished any of them. always felt bad for not finishing them. And this was the first one that I finished. So that was
Wow.
a huge deal to me. Like it was super empowering, honestly. Um, seriously,
Go like
I
this. Go like this.
yeah,
Everyone,
pat on the
we're
back.
just acknowledging.
Yeah, we're
Wow.
acknowledging. I mean, I had barriers, but like the fact that I didn't stop when I encountered an obstacle was like something I'd never done before, and that was really empowering. But an example, the biggest one was when I did the little t trauma entry. And so for those of you that haven't done this yet, um, in the beginning of the journal, Marissa, you do like prepare us. You tell us like, come up with, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but something to do if you get triggered. How are you going to
Right.
soothe yourself? All of that.
There's a day 0.
Yeah.
Like just to do that. Yeah. We're not diving in day 1, like write all your shit. It's like day 0. Like, let's set this up for success.
Yeah. And that is like, wow, I just thought the way that it was laid out was really beautiful. It flowed really well. And I think each step is really essential. And that like day 0, setting yourself up, super important. Unfortunately, I just didn't understand what it was going to look like for me to like get triggered. I didn't actually think I would get triggered. Like, even though you mentioned it and you warned us in the journal, I just didn't, I don't know. I didn't see it coming in the way that it ended up coming.
Right.
So yeah, it was just the little T's. There was like also a section for like the big T's, like serious traumatic events. I didn't even feel like I had any of those, but I was trucking along, the beginning of the journal, just totally fine, pretty consistent, and then I did my little T entry, and it wasn't even something that came up in the entry, but I brought what I wrote in the entry to therapy. And when I was in therapy, we talked about it more, and something that came up while I was actually in therapy, just it triggered me. It was something from my childhood. It was something small, which, if you want me to share it, I can, not a big deal, but I didn't expect it. And it was like a lot of negative feelings that came up, and I just didn't really handle it. I didn't really like soothe myself, or I don't know. And I think after that, I started to like avoid doing the journal again because I didn't want to experience those negative feelings again. And I shut down a little bit for like about 2 weeks. I just was really avoiding journaling again, picking it back up. And I think really what actually got me to start it up again was I emailed you. Or maybe we were in correspondence. I don't remember exactly, but
you did
I
announce
you.
like you proclaimed like I'm starting, and I was like, great, like keep me in the loop how it goes. And then you were like, what self-care? And I was like, a candle, a bath, a walk. You're like, okay, music. And so you were keeping me in the loop.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like after a couple of weeks of taking a step back, right, part of you sensed it would help to reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just the push I needed, I guess. You responded with something really nice and motivating, and I was just like, yeah, I can do this. I wanted to finish it. I knew that it was helping me a lot. And the day that I went back to it, so there was an entry for like the big T, like traumatic events, and I didn't feel like I had any, so I just continued writing little T's because the list could go on forever.
Right.
And I had a moment that day. I specifically remember like feeling triggered as I was writing, and I cried, like sitting there
Mm.
writing by myself, crying. And then I finished journaling, and I just was really nice and gentle with myself and just kind of let myself sit on my porch. That's where I was journaling at the time, and hang out for a little bit. And then I closed my journal and I like moved on with my day. And I was just so amazed
Wow.
that I could sit there and like process something that was traumatic for me in a journal by myself, cry, soothe myself, comfort myself, and then go on with my life. And that was such an epiphany for me, because every other time in my life, pretty much, that I felt triggered, I shut down. I
Right.
didn't know that I could just kind of, yeah, be nice to myself and kind of validate myself and comfort myself, and then keep going with my life.
Right.
So that was like a huge moment. And after that, I felt really motivated to keep going.
Empowered,
Yeah,
right?
really, really empowered. Like, yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't have words for it, but I think just having this awareness, and then also the way that this journal gives you like a gives you the chance to process this stuff with yourself is really empowering,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Right.
think, yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
being codependent, um, yeah, we don't really rely on ourselves that much. Is that a thing? I don't know. I'm not an expert, but that's how I feel, that I don't, I didn't rely on myself or like trust myself to be able to like handle big things, like big emotional things. I don't know. I was always just trying to like, I thought someone else, like a therapist or a coach or just anyone, someone I trust, someone else had to like validate these big feelings and handle them for me or with me, or tell me what to do, or tell me how to handle them. And this journal really helped me like trust myself more and
Mhm.
realize that I can come up with an idea to help myself, and it can work really well. Or just process things with myself. That was just like, it was like, I'm like exploding, doing the hand exploding mind thing for people who aren't watching. Like, it was just an epiphany for me. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, a couple of things are coming up for me. So first, I titled it the Confiding Codependummy because I love alliterations. So, I just make it match. But also in the prompts, in the PDF, in the emails, I discuss how what would it be like for you to confide, to share secrets, to keep secrets, not in a, you know, self-harming, keeping secrets way, but really just to share with yourself what you've been through, right? To
yeah,
have that confidence in yourself. And yeah, so here you are embodying that through practicing with the journaling prompts, through the writing practice. And then second, these feelings, they are big and they are unprocessed. They are raw. And yet with the journaling prompts, with the Confiding Codependummy, there is this container, right? It's not this outpouring and just this mess. It's you can set a timer, you have a journal, you have a beginning, middle, and end process with your writing. So ideally, you are able to write about, bring up these feelings, cry, rage, whatever, smile, laugh, and then you're able to close your journal and move on with your day. So yeah, really be that witness to yourself and your feelings. And then third, you mentioned this little T trauma that came up that you sense led you to just take some time away from writing. You were like, I can share it if you want me to. Molly, do
Mhm.
you sense that you want to share it, or do you sense that you've described sufficiently the impact that it had? It's up to you.
I mean, I don't really care either way. I was just thinking if I were listening to this, I feel like I would want more context. But I mean, I can quickly share it because it was just, I was reflecting on, like a little T traumatic event being, when I was, I don't know, 8-ish,
Mhm.
moving from after my parents got divorced, moving from my dad's house and living just with my dad, where we were getting like a fair amount of quality time for kind of the first time ever. And then my dad starting to date someone else, and us being my little brother and I being moved into her house, basically the girlfriend, the new girlfriend, and they were Nicaraguan, and they had a different culture than I had growing up. And I was not prepped for it in any way. And
Mm-mm.
suddenly, like the way that I had acted all my life was I was being told I was like being rude, and I couldn't. It was like I had been raised up until 8 years old to like have certain manners. And then I entered this new house, this new space, this new culture. And my way of being was like I was being told that I was just wrong, like rude,
Mm.
disrespectful. You can't talk to me like that. When you enter, you need to say this. I mean, it was just like it was a culture shock, but nobody prepared me for it. And my dad didn't like stand up in any way. It was just like, adapt. And that when I was talking about it in therapy, another thing that came up was the thing that really ultimately ended up kind of triggering me was I remembered, and I say remembered because like this stuff is hard to write about, not
Mhm.
just because it's painful, but because like literally remembering it is hard. I don't know if
Right.
that's because memory gets foggy or because we don't want to remember. But
Both and yeah.
yeah. So it just came up in therapy. I was talking about also when I was transitioning to living in this new environment. um there was a time where my dad, like he used to, when I was little, call me baby girl or like baby whatever, and he called out saying like baby girl, and I answered yes, and my now stepmom also answered yes, and he wasn't talking to me. um
Mm.
so it was like that, like I no longer, I don't know, I felt like I was being kind of pushed out of the picture in some way. Like, I don't know. It was a sensitive thing to talk about, and I cried, and
Yeah.
I just didn't expect it to come up. So I think that's kind of what shut me down. Yeah.
Right. One term in our psychobabble dictionary, we'd say dethroned. Right. So
Yeah.
you weren't the queen, but still, like, here was your throne that said baby girl. And that's
Yeah.
where Molly sat for 8 years of her life. And then right here you are with this huge shift, right? Going from parents are married to divorced. And yet, with that, you having quality time with your dad, and then going to, like, step aside, 8-year-old. This is my throne. You're like, what? And it's like, oh, and by the way, you're rude and you're wrong in how you interact with people. And your dad's like,
Right.
and everyone, I just like lifted my hands, like just in a gesture where he's like, adapt,
Right.
adapt. Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, so many things. Like I just can't stress enough how many things come up. And like the cool thing is that, like, I don't know, I think most people tend to journal unprompted. I don't know, just journal like if
Right.
you're a journaler.
Your
So it was,
diary. Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool to have the prompts because otherwise I would just probably journal about what came up during the day. If I needed to go deeper, I would, but like it's this way really helps like cut to, I don't know, I guess cut to the chase. Like um and as I was journaling, thinking about, things that maybe the prompt were, trying to get to something about codependency, other things would come up, about like my childhood and just anything. It was really good for getting the juices flowing in that area where, we don't really want to think about most of the time.
Right. Because in your day-to-day life as a 26-year-old, 23-year-old, 20-year-old, when maybe a close friend of yours or a boyfriend, a romantic partner, you guys have this amazing summer, you spend all this quality time together, and then he starts a new job and there's way less quality time, right? So just not mirroring, but similar to the experience you had with your dad post-divorce, you might feel triggered or just off or anxious. And you're just walking around like, why am I so anxious? I'm such a weirdo. But who knew, like, who would have known that, oh, well, this little T trauma, right? Sense of abandonment, a significant shift in her relationship with her dad happened. And maybe it's bringing up similar feelings right now. Or yeah, what is it like, Molly, when you moved to Spain, right? Who knows if part of you was walking around all anxious internally, thinking, am I going to be perceived as rude? Am I acting like I'm supposed to act in a professional, social, or whatever environment, right? Who knows what it's like for you, like deep, deep down, to be introduced to people of different cultures, right? For you, you potentially are very sensitive to that. And nicknames, what do nicknames signify for you in your family? And when they change, or when you hear someone else called baby girl, like what does that bring up for you? And yeah, had you not been able to create space, write about, and process these feelings, you would just be walking around thinking you're an overdramatic, crazy weirdo sometimes, when, yeah, this is just unresolved emotion that deserves attention.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure everyone
Yeah.
appreciates it, especially the person who's like, wait, say it. I know it's so hard. It's so to discern, like, do I say it? Do I not say it? Do I get specific? Do I not get specific?
I feel like it's so great though to just say it. I have like feel like it's helped me so much to hear other people, including you and like your guests, come on your show and just like say it. Like this stuff doesn't need to be a secret. It sucks because there is that feeling of like, I don't want to like badmouth my family. I've heard a lot of people talk about it on this podcast. Like, I
Yeah,
love my
I've had people on to
family.
talk about why we hesitate to talk about our
Yeah, yeah.
families.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a good thing. It's not personal. It's like, look, what what my parents did wasn't enough and it hurt. And it's not personal. I know they were doing their best. It's okay. Like I wish we could all talk about it more openly because I think for me it's helpful to hear.
Right. And then something too, 4 things came up. You talked about the fact that due to the context, what was going on, no one prepped you for moving in with the girlfriend, for the culture shock that may be happening, for what blending families look, feel, sound like. Excuse me. And so for you and for those who are doing the Confiding Codependummy decide to do it, gleaning from that, it sounds like it will be and should be very important for you to prep for big changes, right? So when you do move into a partner, or when you do move back to the States or whatever, like what does that sit down look like from your right internal parent to your inner child, to just say, Molly, we're going to have a big change coming up. And this is likely to happen, right? We can't predict the future, but with these ideas in mind and what this is going to look like, how can we make this as smooth as possible? And then keep checking in with ourselves. You're like, great, inner parent, like let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
I think this journal has helped me feel a lot more confident, like to be my own, like to reparent or whatever you want to call it, to be that parent for myself. Like I think I wanted to before, but I just didn't really know how. But yeah, the journal has helped me a lot with feeling like I can do that.
Right. Well, prior to journaling, listening to the podcast, bringing more conscious awareness into our lives, it's really the blind leading the blind, or
Yeah.
my inner child, like leading everything. Yeah. She's just trying to figure it out. Poor little 8-year-old self. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. So you got over the hurdle, and you overcame that through reaching out, through talking about it in therapy, right? So you like, Molly, no one was forcing you to send me an email. So it's like, oh, yes, like I said some kind words and encouraged you, and maybe your therapist and other things you've done, but like you technically were the one to like pick up your pen the next day, and you chose to email me. So
For sure, for sure.
just to acknowledge, like, this is all on you in a good way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I'm curious. Okay, so we'll do 2 questions. We'll break this down. What was it like to finish?
Oh my God. You know, I feel like I want to say like, oh, it's silly. I'll resist. Although I just said it. But like I felt so huge. I
Mhm.
seriously, what I will say is there were so many times where I wanted to write so much and that didn't necessarily fit in like the 15 minutes a day that I wanted to spend. So, like I also learned that if I sat there and journaled for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I might start like avoiding journaling again because I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is like, it's so much. So towards the end where I really like I was feeling that momentum. Like I
Mhm.
was really wanting to like dive deep. I started to kind of like do the timed segments, but if I wanted to like spend multiple days on one prompt, I would allow that myself to like do that until I felt like I was finished. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like a clean 30 days for me by any means. Um, but by the time like that last whatever section of the last day came around, I like went to the library. I had like a ceremony almost.
Hmm.
Like I went to the library, I brought all these materials, I reserved a table, and I I don't even I felt so proud of myself. I
Mhm.
exclaimed to my boyfriend like how happy I was that I finished. And I said earlier this was the first thing like journaling self-help thing that I started and finished.
Right.
So I felt like I was sealing the deal on like trusting myself and having that like confidence that I can take care of myself.
Damn.
It was seriously intense. Like, I am not just saying this shit.
No, you're not. Just acknowledging you felt huge, right? I'm all about taking up space.
Yeah, I
Stop playing
felt
small, like
huge.
play huge, play big. Like, let's go.
Yes.
And you had a ceremony. You
I mean, you can
had a
call it that.
spread at the library. Yeah, right. There's the opening and closing ceremonies at the Olympics. This was your Confiding Codependummy closing ceremony. And
Heck
your
yeah.
boyfriend was a guest, virtually. You texted him. I did it. Yeah. Right. And
And
sealing the deal. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna say it even showed up when I was at the library. I have a lot of cultural clash, like fiasco moments a lot in Spain. And I went to the library and I just sat down at a table and I started my like whole thing. And someone came up to me and was like, "What are you doing? You need to go down," like really harshly, like, "You're not supposed to be doing this. You need to go ask for reserve the table." And I had a gut reaction of like, someone's yelling at me. I want to cry.
Someone from a different culture,
Yeah,
right? When
in
I
another
assume it's
language.
okay to go sit at a table, it's a library. It's what I've done my whole life. Mm-hmm.
In front of other people.
Mm.
And so I could have just left the library and cried and gone home. But I was like, no, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to ask this lady what it is that I need to do to get this table. I'm going to go down and ask, apply for the reserving this table and, go through the steps to get this done because this is what I want to do right now. So I feel like I had a little extra confidence from, doing this work, consistently up to that point. And so
Wow.
when I did finally finish, it was just like, wow, look at me go.
You did it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So even in the final prompt, in the process of completing the final prompt, you were confronted with a moment of codependency, right? Where you really could have just let someone else dictate the rest of your morning, after evening, whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, look at you, like, no, we're going to go downstairs. It's a conversation with yourself. We're going to go ask the lady what we need to do and we'll get the table. You're like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I can do it. Yeah. That's awesome. So you felt huge.
Yeah.
And sealing the deal on trusting yourself, right? Through your writing, through even that confrontation with this random, library policy enforcer. And what have been some key takeaways?
So many. But I think the biggest one for me, I think it's going to be different for everyone, like what the biggest like insight takeaway is. But I had this question for so long. It's kind of like specific regarding codependency of why am I like a problem that I had a lot before I really started building awareness with all the codependency stuff was my boyfriend, my partner, feeling like he was getting like the short end of the stick a lot. Like I would be codependent with other people and like kind of like not even cast him aside, or like either cast him aside or try to like recruit him in my conquest, like my attempts to please other people. Like, I would put other people's needs above his and mine.
Right.
But to both of us, it was like, why am I doing that? Like, this is my boyfriend. Like, shouldn't I be putting his needs above other people's and also my needs? So that was confusing.
With him?
Yeah. Like, why am I not? Why are there situations where I'm like, there are situations where I'm codependent with him, but there are a lot more, especially in Spain, where I found myself like codependent to like the group that we were in. And I wouldn't really care what was going on with him. I cared more about pleasing whatever people I thought I needed to please in like the group.
Right.
Or anyone. So that was like a question for a really long time. I didn't understand it either. I understood why like I was not putting my needs above other people's, but I didn't understand like why I was putting other people's needs over my boyfriend's.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the answer, I think, in this
Wow.
journal. I think the insight that I came up with was that I tend to be the most codependent with whoever's love, approval, affection, friendship feels the most fleeting,
Mm.
or that like I don't feel is like already there. It's not going
Right.
away. Like, I feel like I have my boyfriend's love and affection and approval and friendship. I feel like it's there. Same with, for example, my mom. But I'm a lot more codependent with my dad than my mom. And that was another question that I had as I was journaling. Like, how come when Marissa in this journal asks like who I'm the most codependent with, my mom doesn't come up that much, but my dad comes up a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I have my mom's love and I don't feel like it's going anywhere, but I don't feel like my dad's love is there to stay unless I
Right.
do XYZ. So that was huge. And I'm really
Huge.
glad that I found that in this journal. It's helped
Mm-hmm.
me a lot to know that.
Can you give an
Yeah.
example of how it's helped?
Well, I was like, I need to be prioritizing my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing that. Like I now, even when I have the tendency or like the like gut reaction, the body reaction of like, screw whoever's around me, screw Ryan, screw myself, like I need to please this person, I can like stop and be like, wait, no, I need to put this like relationship first.
Right.
um like I started couples coaching with my boyfriend actually,
Wow.
which is like kind of weird to say in a public space, because it's something that I think is like so made to feel like hush hush and like you shouldn't talk about that. I don't know.
Hmm.
People don't talk about their relationship problems a lot. I don't know. Maybe that's just in my experience. But it's been awesome. It's helped a lot, and it's just made a lot of things easier to
Right.
to to be able to prioritize my relationship and know that that's okay and I should.
Yeah. Right. One of the unfortunate aspects of codependency is that, yeah, I have a very similar interaction with my husband, my then fiance, my then boyfriend, and just noticing that it feels secure currently.
Yeah.
He seems unconditional. And at the same time, if I continue to live my life as such a codependent, it is, his love is fleeting.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be put on the back burner all or most of the time for years and years and years. So it does, there is a toll. It would take a toll. So yeah, you recognizing it now, you're like, okay, I need to prioritize couples coaching. Let's do couples coaching. So these are all demonstrative of you having this insight, having this awareness, and wanting to consciously combat it. Like, oh, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Like, this is, your love is not fleeting. I don't want you to sense that I think that you're here forever.
Right.
I
Right.
want to show care, investment, commitment, prioritization.
Yeah. And that was something that I actually wrote, which I didn't, I forgot that I did actually write about that when I came up with this insight, like, oh my God, I just realized I tend to be the most codependent with whoever's love feels the most fleeting. And it was like stream of consciousness. I was like, I don't want to live like that. That's no way to live. I
Mm,
want to invest my energy, and like I want to invest into the people like who already love and care about me, like the people that I know. love and care about me and want the best for me, not the people that might not, or that I feel like don't really. Like, why am I spending all my energy on the people that I feel aren't necessarily, don't necessarily have my best interest at heart or care about me, and casting aside the people that I feel like do. That something's like off there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Something's off with our codependency. It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So biggest takeaway that has had a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. I know you emailed me after, you were like, oh, like I can't remember the specific language, but any way to like process or talk some things through. So in the time that we have left, any question, observation you'd want to work through?
You know, since then I feel like I've had time for things to kind of like settle in. Like, I don't feel as much like I need to process this more. I feel like I've processed it all pretty well, but I do still have a couple of questions.
Okay, let's do questions. And
Like,
let's just acknowledge Molly.
yeah.
Right. So here you are, you've completed Confiding Codependummy. You've been able to bring it to your individual therapy. You've been able to initiate and engage with your boyfriend in couples coaching. And you also have started to cultivate self-trust, self-reliance, self-soothing. And so I don't know when you emailed me like, hey, what about talking through some of these questions? But here you are, right, as a consequence to what came up in the writing, what you've worked on thus far, this internal sense that, I think I can address them with the resources I have, or it's not as urgent to work through. Like I'm optimistic it'll all get addressed. Okay, so just acknowledging that. And
Yeah.
your questions.
Thank you. I
You're
think that was
welcome.
good to acknowledge. And
Yeah.
I like trust myself with this material. Like, I trust myself with it. I don't feel like I need someone else to tell me what to do.
There's no
However,
like, now what?
yeah, except that my next question.
Yeah.
No, I did want to ask, like, so one thing that I started doing when I finished the journal was, I think one of the questions was like, what are you going to do to keep working on this? Or you had a set sort of like time goals or things, that changes that we thought we might need to make, and then write like sort of a time frame for those changes. So, and it was one of the questions I think was, how are you going to hold yourself accountable? And my thought was, I basically made like a little checklist of typical codependent tendencies that I have. And I started going through it every day as I was journaling, just kind of thinking like, did I do any of these today?
Wow.
And that was really good. I caught myself like, oh yeah, I did this today. Or, oh, I specifically like had a success in this area today. And then really quickly, it started to kind of be like ingrained in my head. Like, I didn't need to necessarily go through the checklist. I could tell, like, without waiting until the end of the day, more like in the moment, like, oh, I'm feeling like I am doing this specific codependency tendency that I wrote about in my little checklist.
Right.
But I was going to ask, like, suggestions for how to keep moving forward after you complete the Confiding Codependummy.
That is a great question.
It's kind of a big question.
It is and it isn't. So, right. So a couple thoughts come to mind immediately, which is, right, the intention of the second year of the show is tenderness. That is my intention.
I love that.
I know. I remember I looked it up and I started crying. I was like, yeah, I think I want the theme to be tenderness. And so it's kindness, gentleness, and sensitivity to pain. I was like, oh my God. So I wonder if, like, what comes to mind as like a daily tenderness gesture, practice,
Mhm.
communication to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I have been journaling. I don't want to like fall off, but I think that actually could be where maybe I'm going wrong is in like being upset with myself for falling off. So just right now, my goal is I don't think it's realistic to journal every single day. I mean, it is realistic, but I know that sometimes I don't journal every single day. So I've been telling myself at least every other day. Um, and just, I guess, not beating myself up if I don't do it.
Right? That sounds really tender. Is an
Yeah.
expectation to journal every other day. So, yeah, that comes to mind, like really trying to integrate tenderness into your
Yeah.
life as like post confiding codependent, continuing to listen, go to therapy, couples coaching,
Yeah.
corresponding with me. And the second is to notice that, right, like here you were early 2021, listening to the podcast, going to therapy, bringing consciousness to your codependent ways. And then, like a slow, subtle stepping away from what we know is best for what you know is best for you, what we know is best for us. It is so, I mean, Molly, we are combating at least 20 years of codependency, right? Thinking about 8-year-old you, you're
Yeah.
26. Like it's this is the starting off point,
Yeah.
but yeah, 20 years compared to 30 days. Like your codependency is like, psh, like we don't have anything to worry about. Like she'll come back. And so really trying to, yeah, practice tenderness and and like just have an understanding that you are going to fall off, you may take time away. And so
Yeah.
acknowledging that that will happen, but also preparing for it. Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, does it mean that after trying to, like, okay, after a full week of not writing,
Yeah.
who do I need to reach out to?
Yeah.
After 2 weeks of not writing, yeah, who can I, and I'm saying who because we're building that self-reliance, but there's nothing like sharing with me, sharing with your
Mhm.
boyfriend, sharing with a beloved friend. I've fallen off, and getting that
Yeah.
compassionate, tender response that maybe you're not able to
Yeah.
provide to yourself. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, Molly, you're already doing it. You're going to therapy, you're going to couples coaching,
Yeah.
you're volunteering to come on and record with me about your experience. You're listening to the show. You're I forget what else. Like I'm sure you're reading and like doing all the things. And so it is like, I think
Yeah.
too, like one thing that I I have worked on and continue to work on is I do all the horizontal things. I journal pretty much every day. Like meditating every day. I'm going to therapy once or twice a week. I'm hosted a freaking podcast. Like
Yeah.
I work out every day. I stretch, like I do all the things and I keep going horizontally.
Yeah.
But then like, am I internalizing that? Is it going in vertically, like, body, mind, heart, soul? Or
Yeah.
am I just crossing off 30 minutes of writing? And so, I think being intentional
Yeah.
is another one.
And what's coming to mind for me is something that my coach actually said to me, which was like, you and your boyfriend, you guys have been through a lot, cut yourself some slack. And so I keep like playing that in my head, like cut myself some slack, cut my boyfriend some slack, cut everyone some slack. But most of all, like cut myself some slack. Because yeah, you're right. Like I'm doing like all the things. So yeah, maybe that's the step, is to just be tender. Yeah, tender and gentle and compassionate, rather than looking for like, what else can I pile on to all the things I'm already doing?
You might be adding to that horizontal demonstration of healing.
Right.
But yeah, am I truly like helping my inner child if and when she needs it? Like, am I talking kindly to her? So tenderness seems like what do I do? What do I do after I finish? So you practice self-tenderness, whatever that looks like for you. You have a plan for if and when you fall off whatever routine you're trying to be on. So 7 days, 14 days, maybe like at the most 21 days. What does it look like? Like, who am I reaching out to empower myself to get back to it? And then third is like practicing intentionality. So what you're already doing, just really trying to be conscious if and when you do it, so then you're not reaching for other things. Like if we really journal every day, like just getting really honest with ourselves for 15 to 30 minutes, that's a lot of awareness can come from that, where we don't have to, I don't know, like read a horoscope and do this podcast and
and sometimes it's like I find myself at the end of the day too exhausted. Like I'm just like, oh my God, I can't go really like deep right now. I just need to write about what I did today, and being able to be like, that's okay. Tomorrow,
cut yourself some slack.
I'll rest tonight, and maybe tomorrow I can like go a little deeper. Yeah.
Cut myself some slack. CMSS. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Any other thoughts, Molly?
Girl, I have so many thoughts, but I'm talking about it with my therapist and all my friends about this journal, so I'm good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you
so much for having me.
Being such an ardent supporter. And all you girls listening, if you've started the Confiding Codependummy, I encourage you to fight the good fight and finish it. Play big in your writing. If you're wanting to share and sense what Molly is sharing and sensing, you can go to codependummy.com/tools for healing to get your copy today. And, it's like we're recording late February, early March. You can start whenever. Part of me is like, oh, like April 1st, like correspond, but just start whenever. And I truly made this. I plan to make other tools right? It's tools for healing. That's the page on the website. So my goal is to have tools, writing, meditation, something with your body. I don't know what, but yeah, this is my hope, my gift to you, in addition to these episodes, to support you along your healing journey. And so, yeah, Molly is a model for all of us and what that looks like. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Hey, girl. It's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster. I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, marissa@codependummy.com. Check out codependummy.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please find one.